Okay, now let's move to the animation portion of this slide. They have, like, I have tried to cover up maximum orally I have described. Now you can read it what I have all mentioned here. Now this you can see is within the internal acoustic meters, the facial nerve enters the facial canal. Got it? Okay. Then you are seeing is this. Now this one is the greater superficial petrosal nerve. The first branch of the facial canal, the greater superficial petrosal nerve, branches from the geniculate ganglion within the genu of the facial canal after and enters the middle cranial fossa by way of hiatus for the greater petrosal nerve, the canal for the greater petrosal nerve. That is all, the description about this. Then you are seeing is this nerve is given out within this vertical course of the facial nerve. That's the second branch of the facial nerve. The stapedial nerve, the branches from the descending portion of the facial nerve and enters the middle ear. Got it? Now you're seeing is the third branch of the facial nerve, the chordae tympani nerve, branches from the descending portion of the facial nerve and enters the middle ear. Within the middle ear, the chordae tympani nerve crosses the medial surface of the tympanic membrane. It then passes through the petrotympanic fissure to enter the infratemporal fossa. All details I have mentioned. I believe if you were focusing, if you're listening carefully, you would have understood. Now look here, this is the stylomastoid foramen. The descending portion of the facial nerve exits the facial canal at the stylomastoid foramen and continues into the parotid region. So everything you have been taught. Now look here, the functional components of the facial nerve. Remember the color coding, and this is how I am going to explain everything. So this one is for is for special visceral efferent. Remember, now this one will be a parasympathetic supply. So it's motor to the this one is special. No, this is not the general. So this is special, and special means for the muscles of the branchial arches. So this is for the second branchial arch. Special visceral efferent for the motor to the striated muscles derived from the second branchial arch. Okay, now you're seeing is special visceral afferent. Now this is bringing in sensory sensations from visceral touch, temperature and pain. Okay, then you are seeing is the special visceral afferent. That means it's bringing in the taste sensations. Now you're seeing is general visceral efferent. Now this one is the autonomic innervation of the mucosal, lacrimal and salivary glands. Like this one is the parasympathetic outflow, and this you are seeing is about the general somatic afferent, means sensory sensations from the somatic touch, temperature and pain from the external auditory meatus. So that was about the different functional components, and now we're going to see is about the special visceral efferent component of the facial nerve. One by one. Special visceral efferent, right? That means it's the branchial efferent. Now in this, what I'm going to demonstrate is the demonstration of the innervation of the muscles derived from the second branchial arch. Okay, so first of all I'll show you how stapedius muscle is being innervated, and the purpose of this muscle, remember, stapedius was to dampen the movements of the ossicles inserts on the stapes of the middle ear, and by this it dampens the ossicles. The purpose of this muscle is to the high pitched sound which are reaching to the internal ear through this stapedius stapes, it dampens the oscillations of stapes so that high pitched sound should not reach the internal ear. Got it? And imagine if what happens if stapedius is paralyzed, what will happen? There will be hyperacusis, means normal sounds will be heard very loud. Even whispering you can hear easily. Got it? Okay. Then talking about posterior auricular muscles. Posterior auricular muscles are let's talk about the extraocular muscles. Like you have extraocular muscles, may you have, you know, ocular, sorry, no, auricular, extra-auricular muscles. You have an anterior auricular, superior auricular, and posterior auricular, right? So anterior and superior auricular, they are supplied by the temporal branch of facial nerve, right? And the posterior auricular is supplied by posterior auricular branch, and it also supplies the intrinsic muscles on the back of, although they are vestigial in human beings, and this branch will also supply the occipital bellies of the fronto-occipitalis. So but here in which I am going to show is about the posterior auricular muscles. Then stylohyoid muscle. This muscle, of course, you know that it elevates the hyoid bone. Posterior belly of digastric will also elevate the hyoid bone, and at the same time it will help in depressing the mandible also. It's another muscle which helps in opening or depression of the mandible. Then you have muscles of facial expression, all of them, like, you know, there are different muscles, some for blinking, smiling, frowning, facial movements, that has all been taught to you. We'll just focus on few muscles. Okay, so now here in this diagram you are seeing how to, you know, see that the innervation of stapedius muscle dampens movements of the ear ossicles. So this you're seeing is like a music player, and how the music reaches to the ear, and after that, you know, this afferent limb, this is, you know, this music strikes there, and how that centers, you know, the afferents stimulate, and then how the efferents are, you know, the stimulus bring about from this efferent pathway, and how this, you know, oscillations of this stapedius are controlled by stapedius muscle. So this is about the special visceral efferent pathway. So here you seeing is the music reaching right to the external auditory meatus, and then there you find that the nucleus gets stimulated, right? And this is all being controlled. Here you can see this is how the fibers, and this is how the stapedius, nerve to stapedius reaches and stimulates this muscle stapedius, and that's how this oscillations of this stapes are dampened, and that's how it dampens the high pitched sound from reaching the internal ear. Okay, this is just a repetition. You can see from here, from the main motor nucleus of the facial nerve, impulses being carried out through the course of the facial nerve, through the nerve to stapedius, they reach to stapedius muscle, and when they pull it, they actually dampen the oscillations of stapes. Got it? Okay. Now in this slide, I'll show you the posterior auricular nerve innervates the posterior auricular muscle, and which helps in pulling the pinna posteriorly. This muscle I'm talking here, right? And the efferents will reach here again from the motor nucleus of facial nerve. So here you can see the impulse arising from the main motor nucleus, and then via this course of the facial nerve, but via the nerve to posterior auricular, it reaches to this muscle, and how it pulls the pinna behind. Got it? Now the stylohyoid muscle elevates the hyoid bone. How does it elevates with this impulse? Just look at this point, the main motor nucleus from where the impulse originates, and how it follows the course. Remember the nerve supply, got it, again to the nerve to stylohyoid, and this is how it will elevate the hyoid bone. Okay. Now the posterior belly of digastric muscle elevates the hyoid bone. This also I told you, it will help elevation the hyoid as well as depression of the mandible. Okay, so have a look here again from the motor nucleus of facial nerve. So this is the course of the nerve impulse, and via nerve to the posterior belly of digastric, it reaches there, and this is how it, it elevates the hyoid bone. Got it? Now the next 6 slides I'll demonstrate the special visceral efferent innervation to the muscles of facial expression. Right? Temporal branch was fast revision. Temporal branch, what does it supply? It supplies zygomaticus through its zygomatic branch. Actually, this muscle orbicularis oculi, it has an upper part and a lower part. Upper part supplied by temporal branch, while the lower portion is innervated by the zygomatic branch. So together they innervate the orbicularis oculi and help in closing the eyelids. The other one is the zygomatic branch. Zygomatic branch along with the buccal branch, remember, innervates the zygomaticus major muscle, and that helps in smiling. Then you have a buccal branch which innervates obviously buccinator, and buccinator tenses the cheeks, like it pushes the food from the gingivo-buccal vestibule into between the teeth. Then mandibular branch, it innervates the depressor anguli oris and the muscles at the chin and below the lips, right? So it will may help you make this expression of sadness and grief. While cervical branch innervates the only muscle, and that's called platysma, and platysma has two functions. Basically, it also has a necessary muscle. It helps in depression of the mandible, as well as it also helps. It's called a shaving muscle because it it clears the creases on the front of neck while shaving. You can stretch the skin. So these are the few innervations of the muscles of the facial expression. However, each nerve branch innervates multiple muscles, and each muscle receives multiple nerve branches. Remember though that the muscles of facial expression, you cannot say that this has been only excluded by innervated by this. All they have like surrounding associated innervations, but you can just localize those muscles and the nerve supply, and you can experimentally find them out. So here I am telling you about this. Which muscle I am going to discuss is the temporal and zygomatic branches. Remember, the temporal and the zygomatic branches of the facial nerve provide special visceral nerve fibers that innervate the ipsilateral orbicularis oculi, the muscle responsible for closing the eyelid, both upper portion by temporal branch, lower portion by zygomatic branch. So impulse starts again from the motor nucleus. That's how the impulse arises, and that follows the course of the facial nerve, and then it splits and reaches to both the divisions, right? So and that goes and stimulates the orbicularis oculi and helps in closing the eyelids. Okay, now I'm showing you here is about the zygomaticus major, right? That the muscle which helps you laugh and smile unilaterally when it contracts. It's it actually the smile can be basically smile is bilateral expression. So it will happen both the side, but I have shown you only of one side. The zygomatic and buccal branches of the facial nerve innervate ipsilateral zygomaticus major muscle, the main muscle responsible for smiling as well as laughing. So you've seen that out of these terminal branches, this is the zygomatic branch, and again the impulse will start here from the main motor nucleus of the facial nerve. You're seeing is the course of the impulse, and via this zygomatic branch it will supply this muscle. Look here now. So this is how it pulls the angle of mouth oral fissure and makes you smile. Got it? Now you look here, the buccal branch, right? This one is the buccal branch. So the buccal branch of the facial nerve innervates the buccinator, this muscle on the cheeks, the muscle responsible for holding the cheek against the teeth, thus pushing the food for chewing, right? From the gingivo-buccal vestibule, it pushes the food back between the teeth for chewing. So this is how, and look here how again the impulse will start here from the main motor nucleus of the facial nerve, and it courses along the course of the facial nerve, and again through this branch, the buccal branch, it reaches there and it pushes the food in between the teeth. Got it? Okay, now I'll show you about this marginal mandibular division. The marginal mandibular division, remember the important point before I forget, like, there's a clinical point associated with this. Remember, this marginal mandibular actually winds below the angle of mandible. One thing, remember. And while it reaches the mid of the mandible, it ascends up onto the outer surface of mandible, and then it innervates the muscles lying, for the depressors of the lower lip, as well as the muscles at the chin. Got it? Including the mentalis. So, and in case if it's asked, like, while giving an incision for, for dissection of an incision for this submandibular, approaching the submandibular salivary gland, right? You give an incision down below the mandibles. Remember, if it's asked which nerve is most prone for injury while giving an incision for submandibulectomy. So, which is the nerve which most commonly is, chances for injury? So, the answer will be marginal mandibular nerve. At the same point, if I ask you which nerve is more commonly injured while the extraction of third molar tooth, then the answer will be lingual nerve, right? Because lingual nerve just travels on the medial aspect of the gingiva of the third molar tooth. Okay, so that was lingual nerve. Here I am talking about the marginal mandibular nerve. So the marginal mandibular nerve and the buccal branch of the facial nerve innervates the ipsilateral depressors angularis oris muscle and muscle responsible for expression of grief, right? It will bring out expression of grief and sadness. So look here at the animation here. Again, the impulse started here in this motor nucleus, special visceral efferent fibers, and that's how this is passing on through this branch, marginal mandibular. And look here what it brings about. It brings about this impression of grief or sadness. Got it? Now the cervical, the terminal, the last branch from this terminal portion, the cervical branch of the facial nerve innervates the platysma. The only muscle that it innervates is platysma muscle, and a muscle partly responsible for the depression of mandible also. So here I'll show you how it depresses the mandible. Look again, the impulse arising from the main motor nucleus of the facial nerve. It courses along this facial nerve via the cervical branch. What it is doing, now look here, it is pulling the mandible down. It is an accessory muscle for depression of mandible. There are big muscles also which pull the mandible down in opening the mouth. Remember which main muscle of mastication? Yes, it is lateral pterygoid. Very good. So it will depress the mandible. Okay. Now look here again, the another function of platysma, as I was telling, is you can see there are transverse creases in the front of neck, right? And this you need to clear off while shaving. So what it does is, look here, the cervical branch of the facial nerve innervates the platysma muscle, the shaving muscle. Remember, it's also called a shaving muscle. Muscle responsible for tightening of the skin of the anterior of the neck. Okay, so look for its animation now, how it clears off these folds of the skin. This is how the impulse travels along the facial canal, facial nerve, and there it goes and it clears off these creases on the front of neck. Got it? Okay. Now the summary of special visceral efferent component, functional component. Here I have shown you all of them. Just have a, concentrate upon this and have a look here. Look here, one by one it will be explained to you. This was for the stapedius, right? And then it is for the terminal branches. All of them reaches to supply the different muscles of facial expression. All of them have been explained. Then this one you are going for the stylohyoid and posterior belly of digastric, and this one you can see is reaching along to the, yes, so stylohyoid muscle also being innervated. And then look here, this one is reaching via the posterior auricular muscles to supply the muscles of the ear. Got it? Posterior auricular muscle to the ear. Okay, so all of them you have been taught about. Now next we are moving to the next functional component. Okay, so this we are talking is about the general visceral afferent component of the facial nerve. So what does it do? The general visceral afferent, it, in the next slide I'll demonstrate about the this functions of the general visceral afferent. Remember what it does, I have already taught you. So light touch, temperature, pain, sensations from the soft palate via greater superficial petrosal nerve. These sensations will be brought in through the greater superficial petrosal nerves. Okay. So now look here, general visceral afferent provides sensations of light touch, temperature and pain from the soft palate. So here you seeing is a diagram where we've shown you this soft palate, right? And the nucleus, remember from where, the sensations, actually it's an afferent. So these sensations will be conveyed in which nucleus? It will be conveyed in the lower portion of nucleus tractus solitarius. Okay, so let's begin. So you like here, this is the light touch sensation of the soft palate. This is the cold touch, like an ice cream. They've shown, it's been shown that is cold temperature being, and then this is the pain sensation. How the sensation will now reach, look here, through the greater superficial petrosal nerve. Ultimately, they will all be relayed in the lower portion of the nucleus tractus solitarius. Okay. Now the summary about general visceral afferents. Again, just look here, sensations will be brought in from here, and why this course, the entire nerve pathway I have all taught you in detail. This is how it will all reach into the lower portion of the nucleus tractus solitarius. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about special visceral afferent component of the facial nerve, and that is being brought through the two nerves. One is through the greater superficial nerve from the hard palate, as well as from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue via the chorda tympani. So taste from the hard and soft palate via the greater superficial petrosal nerve, and taste from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue via the chorda tympani. Okay, so now you're seeing here, this I'm telling you is about special visceral afferent that provides taste sensations from the hard and soft palate via the greater superficial petrosal nerve. Look at this area, right? So this hard and soft palate. How these, the sensations here I'm giving you is about the taste sensation. So look here, the taste sensation from the hard, and this is like a cup of coffee. So when it will spread upon hard and soft palate, the impulse which again follow the course here on the great petrosal nerve, and it will relay. Where will it relay? Anybody? Yes, it will relay in the upper portion of nucleus tractus solitarius. Very good. Okay, now look here, the special visceral afferent, this will provide taste to the anterior two-thirds of the tongue via the chorda tympani. Now this will be the pathway of taste from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, via the chorda tympani. Ultimately, they will also relay in the same center, and you know it. So here look, it's a person is licking a lollipop. So how the taste sensation from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, now this will either follow the course of chorda tympani, and again it will relay in the upper portion of nucleus tractus solitarius. Okay. Now the summary of special visceral afferent mean from the palates as well as the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, except, look here, the circumvallate papillae. Okay, the sensation being brought in here from that palate, both hard and soft palate. So they are being relayed here, nucleus tractus solitarius upper portion, right? Now look, the sensation from the tongue, anterior two-thirds except the circumvallate papillae, and the same pattern, the same thing is here also. This is actually, you should learn all these so that you can have an idea in your clinical postings also. ENT surgeons need to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of care about this facial nerve. It's so much closely related with the middle ear. Okay, now I'm talking is about general visceral efferent, the parasympathetic component of the facial nerve via the pterygopalatine ganglion, right? Remember the mucosal glands of nose, palate, and the lacrimal gland, and via innervation of the submandibular ganglion through which will innervate the submandibular and sublingual salivary glands. So this will provide, lacrimation, tearing of the eyes, as well as, mucous secretions of the nasal cavity and mucous secretions from the oral cavity, nasal and oral cavity. Got it? And why this chordate tympani? It will cause salivation of the oral cavity. Okay. So in this diagram, general visceral efferent. So in this general visceral efferent component of the facial nerve transmits preganglionic fibers to the pterygopalatine ganglion via greater superficial petrosal nerve. From the pterygopalatine ganglion, postganglionic fibers cause ipsilateral lacrimation and mucus secretions of the nasal and oral cavities. So once again, just from this ganglion, the postganglionic fibers via maxillary, zygomatic, then zygomatic-temporal will communicate to the lacrimal nerve and will cause lacrimation. At the same time, there will be greater and lesser palatine nerves for the secretions from the nasal and oral cavities, mucosal secretions. So look at this now, and there is this general visceral efferent, this nucleus placed at the level of pons, lower pons, and how from here because it's a motor tract, so impulses will start from here, right? So you can see how the impulses originate from here and they take this course via the greater superficial petrosal nerve. You can see, and this is the course. Well, this will relay here, and after being relayed now to the postganglionic fibers, they will reach to the lacrimal gland and will cause for the lacrimation. Got it? At the same point, now there are other nerves like lesser and greater palatine nerves, greater and lesser palatine nerves. They will cause for secretions from the nose, as well as there will be greater palatine nerves reaching to the palate, and they will cause secretions from mucosal secretions from the oral cavity. Okay. Now this component, general visceral efferent component, again the parasympathetic nervation of the facial nerve transmitted through the preganglionic fibers to the submandibular ganglion via the chordate tympani nerve. From the submandibular ganglion, then postganglionic fiber innervate the submandibular and sublingual glands. What will cause? They will cause salivation. There are two glands, both of them are opening below the tongue, right? Submandibular glands, they have a long duct, and they at the side of the two frenulum there are two papillae on the underside of the tongue where these open. So there, as well as sublingual glands, they also open on the base of this tongue, and so you will find that these glands are all opening there on the base of the tongue. So now look here, and the impulse will arise here again from the superior salivatory nucleus. You can see how the impulse takes this course. They will relay here in the submandibular ganglion. They will cause secretions from both submandibular and sublingual salivary glands. Okay, so that was about general visceral efferent component. Now just have a summary about this. Again, impulses arising here at this lacrimatory and superior salivatory nucleus. So greater superficial petrosal nerve will cause lacrimation as well as secretions from the palate and from the oral cavity, mucosal secretions from the neural cavity and from the nose. Got it? Then the impulse again starting here. Now these impulses will run along the chordae tympani and will cause secretions from submandibular and sublingual salivary gland. Okay. The last functional component now, that is general somatic afferent component of the facial nerve. Now GSA is responsible of providing what sensations? Remember, touch, temperature, pressure, pain, vibrations, right? All exteroceptive cutaneous sensations on the part of the external auditory meatus via posterior auricular nerve. But sometimes, remember, I told you that the auricular branch of vagus communicates with the auricular branch of vagus, and that's called Arnaud's nerve. So it might be either via through this vagus branch from vagus, or maybe directly via the posterior auricular nerve, that it's bringing in these general sensations from the external auditory meatus. How these sensations are being brought in now and where they be relayed, let's hear. This is like how you can irritate this nerve here and make this sensations conscious here. One conscious of these sensations, like it's a cotton bud, and there you seeing how this will start here. This is, you can stimulate by introducing a cotton swab in the external ear, right? So sensations will be arising here because an afferent pathway, right? So this, look here, from where it is entering, right? It is entering the posterior auricular nerve, and where will they relay? Remember, this was the relaying outside, like not a part of facial nerve, but this will relay in the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Okay. Now a summary of this general somatic afferent. Just have a look, all what I've been on from the external ear, right? Sensations from the external ear, how are they being carried by the posterior auricular nerve. Okay, this was the spinal nucleus where this pain, temperature, touch sensations are being relayed from the external ear. So that was the general somatic afferent component of the facial nerve. Or ultimately, what are you seeing in the end? That's the summary of the functional components of the facial nerve. What is the summary? That each of the 5 functional components of the facial nerve, special visceral efferent, special visceral afferent, general visceral afferent, special visceral afferent, general visceral efferent, and general somatic afferent, they all have a unique function, each of them, and each of them have been well demonstrated. I have given enough of time explaining all of them. So knowledge of these functional components can be applied to clinical observations to aid in localizing the lesions of a nerve branches or at anatomical landmarks. And the anatomical landmarks I have been telling throughout my lecture. If you were attentive, you would have heard everything. Okay, so that was all about this. Thank you.